Welcome back to the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, our first out-of-season episode. Unfortunately, it is the off-season. We will not have college basketball for quite a long time, which sucks, but there is all kinds of action going on around the college basketball world thanks to the transfer portal, thanks to some coaching changes. We can always talk about next year. UConn has dominated the past 2 years. Will they dominate the next 2 years? We're going to find out. They're creating some history right now. We're going to see if they'd have what it takes to continue this dynamic and dominant stretch that they are on right now. So in today's episode, we're going to start with the coaching carousel. We're going to talk mostly about the Calipari and Mark Pope. Whole thing going on there. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the blue blood state of Kentucky. Then we're going to talk about some of the transfer portal notable names. I know it's changing every day. We've had some big commitments. We've had a few today. I'm time stamping this first off. Monday, April 15th, 1:36 p.m. That's how quick things are changing. I need to stamp it right now because at 1:38 there might be something else crazy that just went on. We just had Aaron Bradshaw commit to Ohio State just a few minutes ago. I saw it, so we're going to talk about him. Then we're going to talk about some of the roster outlooks for next season as of right now, where they stand. We put out our way too early top 25. It means nothing. It really means nothing right now. It's just I saw people doing it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get involved with that. And then the betting odds for the 2025 champion are out. We're going to talk about some of those odds right now. We're going to talk about Kentucky's on there right now, and they don't even have a team. So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to first talk about the Mark Pope thing and everything crazy going on in Kentucky and Arkansas. Before we dive into it, if you wouldn't mind going down, smashing the subscribe button, you're going to want to know who's on that roster next year, who's on your favorite team, who's even coaching your favorite team you might not know. We're going to talk about that all off season. We're going to try and do an episode a week, just all the updates, some of the big names who entered the transfer portal, committed to other teams, some coaching stuff. So go down, please subscribe, leave some comments. If you have any more news, our DMs are always open. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Love talking to people on there. Let's dive right into it. Let's start with the coaching carousel. Now, we're not going to go through every single team. We're just going to go with some of the big name jobs. Let's just start with Andy Enfield to Eric Musselman at USC. Andy Enfield is going to SMU. Eric Musselman goes to USC. Eric Musselman left from Arkansas, which opened Arkansas, and then the big news that John Calipari was going to go to Arkansas. That was it. That's the story of the offseason. Until we get to the first game, that is the story of the offseason. John Calipari will not be at Kentucky. He will be at Arkansas this year. So that left open a big hole for Kentucky, one of the best jobs that you can have. Let's first start by saying it was kind of just a mutual decision. John Calipari wasn't working out there. As soon as this happened, a bunch of Kentucky fans excited. I was too at first. I thought it was a win-win for Arkansas and Kentucky until I saw some of the things that just went down at Kentucky. So the first choice for Kentucky after that, Nate Oates, it seemed, from Alabama. Nate Oates said no. Jay Wright said no. Dan Hurley said no, but even though they offered him like the most insane contract you can expect. I've heard rumors of like $12 million a year. He said no, he's not going anywhere. He's got the best program right now. Why would he go anywhere? Scott Drew seemed like the heavy favorite after all three of these guys said no. He also said no, wanted to stay in Baylor instead of Kentucky, excuse me. So this left just thoughts of Billy Donovan or Mark Pope, it seemed. Immediately went to Mark Pope. They said they didn't want to wait for Billy Donovan because he's currently coaching the Chicago Bulls right now. They're in the play-in. They didn't want to wait. I get it, putting together next year. This just seems to be a common theme with Kentucky. They rush everything. They rush Calipari. People forget, Calipari had that dominant team with Anthony Davis and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist back in 2012 where they won the national championship. That team was stacked. That's one of the best college basketball teams we've ever seen. That 2015 team was even better with that platoon of 10 All-Americans. They lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. But to this day, even losing in the Final Four, that's still one of the best college basketball teams we've ever seen. I've hated on Calipari on here quite a few times. I don't think he's the greatest X's and O's coach, but he was a top seed just about every year outside of 2020 where they withdrew from the tournament, but they weren't going to make the tournament anyways. So it was a big thing. Kentucky fans so excited to move on from Calipari, yet nobody really wanted the Kentucky job. To be a chance of a blue blood like Scott Drew, he just wanted to, he's loved at Baylor. From what we've seen from Kentucky fans, they don't really love their coaches. They don't support them all the way. I know Calipari's failed the last couple of years. Kentucky doesn't have a roster right now. And I know they're going to have all kinds of NIL money. Mark Pope can put together a team. They don't have a roster right now. It's got to say a little bit of something. I'm not trying to jump to conclusions. Maybe it wasn't Calipari. I mean, Calipari made those comments when he went to Arkansas. He's like, it's not just a coach that makes a great team. It's the entire organization. Kind of taking a little shot at Kentucky is what it seemed. We know he had that bad relationship with March Barnhart, the Kentucky AD. Let's talk about Mitch Barnhart, because I think he has done just an absolute pathetic job. Excuse me if you're watching this and you're a Kentucky fan. I think Mitch Barnhart is terrible. Absolutely terrible. His 3 coaching hires, Bill Gillespie, lasted 2 years. They fired him. He hired Calipari, which he didn't even want to do. Mitch Barnhart did not want to hire John Calipari. Calipari won a national championship and put together some great years in the early 2010s. And now he's ending his career with, you thought he had that big shot. Can you bring Jay Wright out of retirement? I mean, you're the best program. I don't mean like performance wise, but resource wise, you're the best program in college basketball. Practice facilities, NIL money, put everything together, fan base. You're the best program in college basketball in terms of this stuff. Couldn't get Nate Oates. You offered Dan Hurley a ton of money, and he still said no. Jay Wright said no. Scott Drew, seemed like the obvious choice, also said no. And then you look past, and Billy Donovan has shut down. Billy Donovan obviously won those back-to-back national championships in 06-07 with Florida. He shut down Kentucky job a couple times since then. Why not call him? You're too worried about waiting on. I mean, you're going to have to build this program from the ground up. I think Mark Pope is a good basketball coach. He did a great job for BYU. He's never won a tournament game. You're Kentucky, for God's sake. You should be getting a huge, huge name. I mean, go freaking offer Bill Self $1 billion, and it wouldn't. I mean, you're making so much money. I like Mark Pope. I'm really rooting for him. Don't think I'm not rooting for Kentucky this year. I'm really rooting for Mark Pope. I think he's a great guy. It was an interesting hire to me. Now, you saw that, I'm sure everyone's seen that video of Rupp Arena for Mark Pope's press conference. It was great. All the fans coming together, but it's like, do you see it as, wow, this is great, they've got his back? But then in the back of their mind, you fail 2 years, the Kentucky fans are going to wish you out of here, just like Calipari. It's very interesting. According to Matt Norlander over at CBS, they just basically said that Billy Donovan was an option, but they didn't want to wait. They did not want to wait. Billy Donovan's a proven coach. Mark Pope is not. I love Mark Pope. I think he's a terrific guy. Again, I think he's a good X's and O's coach. He did a good job this year with BYU. His staff, everyone there just did a good job. But just the theme is they just don't want to wait. Kentucky just pushes, and pushes you into a failing position. It's so hard to win putting together a complete transfer team. We saw that with Memphis this year. We saw that with St. John's this year. Crazy talented teams. But that first year, I wouldn't be too confident in this first year if you're Kentucky. But the thing is I think if they don't make March Madness, I think they still might. But if they don't make March Madness, they're going to be calling for Mark Pope right away. And this just can't be a continuing theme. There's just no patience from Mitch Barnhart and the upper management. What else can you say about Kentucky? I mean, they're a proud university, and I love that. I think they are great for college basketball, but you can't just rush these things. You need to make the right decisions. It has to be thought out. I really hope they give Mark Pope some time. If he fails the first 5 years, all right, get rid of him. Look at Kenny Payne. If you have Kenny Payne-like years, all right, get rid of him. That's not going to happen. It's still Kentucky, but he's a good coach. Like, Kenny Payne was not a good basketball coach. Mark Pope is a good basketball coach. He's just not that proven for a Kentucky job. They saved a lot of money by doing this, so maybe that goes into a big pot and getting the NIL, getting some big players. I'm not sure. But ever since this happened, Adu Fierro is in the transfer portal. He might be coming back. DJ Wagner just entered the transfer portal. Aaron Bradshaw's in the transfer portal. Zvonimir Ivisic is in the transfer portal. It's not off to a good start for Kentucky. Mark Pope once again, I can't emphasize it enough, is a terrific guy. I'm rooting for him. He is a great, great human being. I hope they do it. I hope they don't rush him out of there. There is just, Kentucky has just been frustrating me as of late. Starts with Mitch Barnhart. Not a fan. Not a fan. All right, enough of that. Let's move on to some of the just other quick coaching carousel. We're just going to go through them real quick, and then we're going to talk about transfer portal and next season's outlook. So Louisville, we already talked about Kenny Payne. He got fired, as he should have. Pat Kelsey took over, and he is doing a pretty good job in the transfer portal as of right now. May I mention? We'll talk about him here in a little bit. Charleston had Pat Kelsey. He went to Louisville. Charleston replaced him with Chris Mack, who used to coach at Louisville, just kind of flip-flopping there. I mean, he coached there years ago, but DePaul fired Tony Stubblefield, and that led to the hiring of old Ohio State coach Chris Holtmann. So Ohio State ended up hiring Jake Diebler, the interim head coach, who did a phenomenal job, beat Purdue in his first ever game, national runner-up Purdue. And then West Virginia, we're just going all over the grid now. West Virginia from Bob Huggins, to Darian DeVries, who's bringing his son Tucker with him. He was the coach at Drake. Ben McCullum takes over at Drake. He is a Division II coach who all kinds of records in Division II. I think this is a good hire. I love seeing coaches or big programs go down and pick up Division II guys because they're proven. They're good basketball coaches. They're X's and O's. Now, I know it's different leading a Division II team than leading a Drake, someone in the Missouri Valley who just got a 10 seed this year. But I think that's a good hire for Ben McCullum. Then Duquesne, Keith Damrot retired, going to Drew Joyce III. Remember Keith Damrot coached Drew Joyce in high school? Drew Joyce, teammates with LeBron. He's loved. He's a great guy. This is a good hire, I think. Michigan had the best out of anyone. Jawan Howard to Dusty May. That was phenomenal. I mean, look, just think if Dusty May was around with this Kentucky job, they'd have offered him $10 million a year. That was good for Michigan to get Dusty May in there as soon as he did, and he's going to bring some transfers over with him. And then Oklahoma State went from Mike Boynton to Steve Lutz. I would have given Mike Boynton maybe another year. I think he's a better coach than what his record showed, but nevertheless. And then Stanford went from Jared Haas to Kyle Smith. While Kyle Smith left from Washington State to go to Stanford, Washington State was left at an opening where they went to David Riley. And then Washington went from Mike Hopkins to Danny Sprinkle, which left that opening at Utah State where Danny Sprinkle was. They went to Jared Calhoun. And then over at Vanderbilt, Jerry Stackhouse didn't do a very good job. Better player than he was coach, but they moved on to Mike Byington from James Madison, which they just promoted internally as well. So that's kind of just the big ones we're going to talk about. Kentucky, obviously the biggest. Arkansas, that's the biggest move. I mean, throw Michigan in there. I'm impressed with Michigan, what they did here. I thought they were going to continue to give Jawan Howard opportunities to just keep failing, and I'm really glad that they went to Dusty May. I think he'll turn that pro. I think they'll be a tournament team this year. I actually have them considered in my way too early top 25 right now. So good hire there. All right, let's move into the transfer portal. I want to talk about some of the biggest names. I know 247 Sports ranks all these, and I could just go through those, but I don't like that. These are the big names. These are only transfers from power conference schools as well, by the way, including some of the San Diego State, Memphis. They're power schools. So I'm starting with Omar Ballo from Arizona. He's transferring to Indiana. Indiana picked up a great transfer class. Kanan Carlisle also going to Indiana. Miles Rice also to Indiana. If they can bring back Trey Galloway, Mackenzie Mbako, Indiana might be an absolute powerhouse next year. It's going to be tough. Now, I've talked a lot about Omar Ballo. He's 7 foot. He was first team Pac-12 2 years ago, I guess now it is. Last year, he kind of just underperformed. He's not that skilled, but he can he's that big presence down low, that big shot blocker. He averaged a double-double. Not a big scorer, but a big body down low. Can block shots. Miles Rice, that pickup was terrific. Miles Rice, we talked about him a lot. He dealt with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So he was it was his third year in college, but he was a freshman basketball player. He was terrific. He led Washington State, him and Kyle Smith, that dynamic duo, to a win over Drake. He's now going to Indiana, so that Indiana roster could be electric right now. Moving on to staying in the Big Ten right now, some of the big pickups for now, not all of these are all the way settled, but they've got crystal ball, which means it's pretty much going to happen. starting with Michigan, all the guys that Dusty May is going to bring with him, it looks like. John L. Davis. Now, I've heard some rumors that it's not a 100% thing that John L. Davis is going to go to Michigan. I even heard talks of UConn, which would be very interesting. I heard Kentucky. Michigan is the front runner right now, so if John L. Davis can go to Michigan, along with his teammate Vlad Golden is like almost, it's like a 98% chance thing that he goes to Michigan. Kind of figured that was going to happen. Then Elijah Martin as well, also from FAU. Those were their top three players. If he can go to Michigan, if you were to bring all three of them to Michigan, that'd be a fun team to watch. That would be a lot of fun. And then Trey Townsend, he was that star from Oakland. I know everyone knows the name Jack Golke. Trey Townsend is actually Oakland's best player. Like he was a stud all year. He's transferring from Oakland. Heard rumors. It's either I would lean Michigan State. I think it's going to be Michigan State, but I also heard rumors he's taking a visit to Michigan. So if they can pick up, my goodness, if Dusty May can get the three of John L. Davis, Vlad Golden, Elijah Martin, and then get Trey Townsend in there, oh my goodness, that's a top 15, probably top 10 four-man lineup right there. That would be outstanding. Get one more guy. Oh my goodness, that team could be spectacular. I think Trey Townsend's going to end up at Michigan State, especially if John L. Davis and Elijah Martin do commit to Michigan. Because I mean, Trey Townsend wants to be a star. No, can't harm him there. Going down, AJ Storr moving from Wisconsin to Illinois. Same with Kylan Boswell. Kylan Boswell also going to Illinois from Arizona. Something about Arizona guys that I've just hated on all year. I don't dislike these pickups because they're proven players. I mean, AJ Storr, he's athletic. So is Kylan Boswell. Kylan Boswell's really young, but I don't think that this is the difference that's like, yep, Illinois' top 10 team. I really don't. I think they're going to be good. If Marcus Domask comes back, they're going to be, he's an all Big Ten player. I can't believe he was left off those lists. He's spectacular. I don't think Kylan Boswell and AJ Storr combining those two even matches the impact that Terrence Shannon made just as one person. AJ Storr, crazy athlete, takes some really questionable shots. Kylan Boswell, just absolutely pathetic performance down the stretch in terms of shooting. Not a gifted scorer, good defender. So is AJ Storr. Their defense is going to be great. Wouldn't label them as a top 10 team yet. That's all I'm going to say. Riley Kugel transferred from Florida to Kansas. That's a fun one. Kansas kind of putting together just a nice lineup. Nice lineup for Kansas. Even a better lineup, Milos Uzan from Oklahoma going to Houston. Houston is going to be loaded. Now we're going to talk about all of these rosters once we get to our preview for next year. As of right now, we'll go through the starting five for all of our top 25 teams that we did. A few other notable ones. We already mentioned Aaron Bradshaw going to Ohio State, which is a replacement for Zed Key, who's transferring from Ohio State to Dayton, just down the road. I think that's kind of a good move for Zed Key. He wasn't really, his game wasn't translating to the Big Ten level. Another big guy, Dane Danger, transferring from Illinois to Memphis. Kobe Johnson from USC. He's a stud forward. For those who don't know, I know USC was horrible this year, but he's a good player going to UCLA, along with Sky Clark from Louisville. I know you might not think, but Sky Clark is a good basketball player. He's also going to UCLA. UCLA putting together a nice transfer class. Doug McDaniel moving from Michigan to Kansas State. I think if he was at Michigan anyways with Dusty May, he wouldn't even be on the team. I think he just causes more problems than anything. Going over to Jerome Tang. Jerome Tang gets his players to love him, so I'm curious to see that relationship there because Doug McDaniel, very talented player. Also going to Ohio State, Michi Johnson, transferring from South Carolina. Remember, he started at Ohio State, went to South Carolina, going back to Ohio State. We mentioned Tucker DeVries going to West Virginia. Eddie Lampkin Jr. from Colorado, big guy, they call him Baby Shaq, going to Syracuse. Nice pickup for Syracuse. Zeke Mayo from South Dakota State. You might not be familiar with the name. South Dakota State made the tournament this year. They could really score the ball. He's transferring to Kansas. This is a great pickup for Kansas. He averaged over 18 points a game last year, so this is a big pickup here. Patrick McCaffrey transferring from Iowa. Yes, his dad is the coach at Iowa, and he's transferring. That's all right. He's a grad student. He's going to Butler. Bensley Joseph from Miami moving to Providence. I think Bensley Joseph was a lot of the issue at Miami this year, so I'm on a selfish. I like Miami. I thought I picked Miami to win the ACC this year. Wow, what a bad bet that was. But I took Miami to win. I think Bensley Joseph was just an absolute just disappointment to that team. Get him out of there, and I think Miami's a better team. He's not a bad player. It just didn't mesh. Nothing meshed there. And then Tremont Mark just actually committed to Texas. I think last night, either early this morning or late last night. He's going to Texas. Remember, he went from Houston to Arkansas, now Arkansas to Texas. A couple other names in there. We're going to get through these. Just some of the notable names to keep an eye out for who might make a big impact. Mark Mitchell is transferring from Duke. He's the first transfer under the John Shire area to transfer from Duke. So I saw that stat and I'm like, wow, that's really impressive for John Shire. I mean, I get it's Duke. Everyone wants to play basketball at Duke. Mark Mitchell wasn't meshing. He had a disappointing year this year. I thought he was very disappointing. Thinking either Kentucky or Arkansas is what it seems. DJ Wagner, we already mentioned, transferring from Kentucky. He'll be able to go somewhere good. I haven't even put a prediction on here where I think he might go. I think UConn would be a pretty good fit. I think he could fit into that Stephon Castle role. We'll see. Danny Wolf, big guy from Yale, stud player. He's transferring. Maybe Kansas. I've heard rumors of Kansas. That would be a pretty good pickup. He can pick just about it wherever he wants to go. He's a stud. Talked about Adu Thiero. He might be coming back to Kentucky. He might go to Arkansas with Calipari. I would lean towards he's coming back to Kentucky. Same with Zvonimir Visic. What's he going to do? I could see Kentucky. I could see Arkansas. You never know. Sean Padula from Virginia Tech, their best player. I heard he got offered a ton of money from Oklahoma. Porter Mosier really wants Sean Padula. I think that's a great pickup. Sean Padula is a good basketball player, leaning towards Oklahoma. Robbie Avila, looking like he's going to go to St. Louis with Josh Hurts. We didn't mention Josh Hurts in the coaching carousel. Why did I forget him? Josh Hurts going to St. Louis, by the way. Great coach, great pickup. A lot of 4 of the 5 starters for Indiana State are all in the transfer portal. Obviously, Robbie Avila, the biggest name. I'm guessing he'll follow Josh Hurts. That'd be a lot of fun. Roddy Gale Jr. from Ohio State transferring. As an Ohio State guy, get him out of here. I don't think he fit in well at Ohio State. Heard he might go to Michigan. That hurts even more. Go ahead. See you there. Dallin Hall from BYU. Looking like he might go to Kentucky as well. Follow Mark Pope there. Same goes for Ali Khalifa, the big guy from. If I were Kentucky, I would not want him. I mean, if you watched him in March Madness or the big, you do not want him. That's all I'm gonna say. A few other names: Aiden Holloway transferring from Auburn, Malik Mack from Harvard. That's going to be a good pickup. Malik Mack from Harvard. Keep an eye on that name. Khalif Battle from Arkansas. Mason Gillis from Purdue. This one shocked me. Don't transfer Mason Gillis. I was so big on Mason Gillis this year. Losing Zach Edey. If you were to throw Mason Gillis, he meshed in. He was a Big Ten 6th man of the year. Throw him in there. Throw Trey Kaufman right at the center. I wish he wasn't transferring. Same goes for Seth Trimble, but I get Seth Trimble. Seth Trimble, the 6th man at UNC, he's going to transfer somewhere where he can be the star. There's no harm there. Everyone's trying to move forward. Pop Isaacs transferring from Texas Tech. Still no updates on his assault case, which happened a while ago. So who would ever want to pick up that luggage? I don't know. Terrence Edwards Jr. is transferring from James Madison. Katie Johnson from Auburn. Ethan Morton from Purdue. Good God, get him out of there as well. Just one of those guys. Great defender. Probably a good guy too, but oh my goodness. Every time he's on the floor, I just want to look away. Jamal Mashburn Jr. transferring from New Mexico. Clifford Omiori from Rutgers. That's one you're going to keep an eye on. He is a great defender. He's a great player. I think he'll end up at somewhere like a Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. Somewhere big. Otega Owa from Oklahoma is transferring. We'll see where he ends up. Javian McCullum transferring from Oklahoma as well. He is going to Georgia Tech. That was an interesting one to me. Damian Stoudemire, doing a great job over there at Georgia Tech. Obviously had a nice little basis to the start of this season. Just going down now. I promise I'm not going to take that much time on it. Tony Perkins, that's a big one from Iowa. Heard he might be going to Indiana as well. Kanye Clary from Penn State. Jacoby Coles from TCU, Micah Peavy from TCU, Cam Carter from Kansas State, Connor Essegian for Wisconsin, Josh Jefferson for St. Mary's. Remember, he got hurt late in the year. Kadir Copeland from Syracuse, Bobby Pettiford from East Carolina. Remember, he was at Kansas, went to East Carolina. Hasn't really performed wherever he's gone. Gibson Jimerson from St. Louis. Thought he might stay with the addition of Josh Hurts. Obviously wants to get out of there. Great Asabar from Utah State and Kerr Kriisa from West Virginia. A few other names to just keep an eye on. All right, that's the entire. That's all. There's 1,000 people in in the transfer portal. Those are some of the ones I just want to mention. Some of the big names transferring from big universities. We just had to get an eye on. Next, we're going to go down the list, 1 through 25. Obviously, things are changing. These lists don't mean anything, the way too early rankings. We're going to talk about some of the projected lineups that might fit in there. So we'll talk about that. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to Fanatics. Fanatics is great. For those who don't know, Fanatics just offers the best deals, the best prices, the best brands. Their clothes are so just comfortable. They're so visually appealing. Right now, you can get UConn championship gear, get gear for next season. Doesn't even have to be college basketball if you don't want. Excited for the MLB season? Go grab a jersey. They got the best gear there. All kinds of brands. Nike, their own brand. They have great customer service. They're always running deals. Right now, they're currently offering free shipping on orders over $24 with code 24SHIP. I encourage everyone to just check their website every day to see what deal they're running. They're always running good stuff. I have a link in the description. Go check it out. Go gear up. They're really great over there. Great customer service, great deals, great brands. Go check it out. Fanatics. All right. Moving into the rankings and roster outlook. Let's start number 1, which I've seen on just about everyone's, Houston. Houston is my preseason number 1 right now. And the thing is, they just announced that Jamal Shead is leaving to go to the NBA, so that's interesting. We already mentioned Milos Uzan coming in from Oklahoma. He's a good defender. He's not gonna you can't replace Jamal Shead like that. But say what you want about Jamal Shead. Jamal Shead was spectacular. He was the key piece, but he wasn't like the most talented player in the world. Now, he was probably my favorite player in college basketball. But it's not like his talent can't be replaced. It's just that heart. So someone's going to need to step into that leadership role. LJ Cryer coming back. That shows a lot. LJ Cryer transferred from Baylor to Houston, was supposed to just kind of, I don't know. It just says a lot about Kelvin Sampson in that program that he's coming back. Emmanuel Sharp, their other guard, also coming back. So is Jawan Roberts. So is Xavier Francis. He's the big guy down low, that big lefty. So is Jawan Roberts, by the way. Xavier Francis he can block anything in sight. And remember early in the year, it was a big story. We never really talked about it since. Terrence Arsenault got hurt, and we're like, oh, this is devastating towards Houston. Didn't really matter because they just cruised through. They're going to get him back. He's a lockdown defender as well. This Houston team, I understand if you want to put Kansas or Duke number 1, but I think it's Houston right now. Experience, coaching, Kelvin Sampson, coach of the year. I think it's going to be a fun year for Houston again this year. Number 2, another Big 12 team. I'm doing Kansas. I don't have Duke number 2 yet. I have Kansas right now. DeJuan Harris, Zeke Mayo, we already talked about, Riley Kugel, KJ Adams, Flory Badunga. Number 9 overall prospect, according to ESPN. All these numbers are going to be according to ESPN, by the way. I think they do a better job than 247 Sports. Quite frankly, I don't even know if they might be combined for all I know. I just like the website at ESPN better. So that's what we're going off of. Flory Badunga, DeJuan Harris, Riley Kugel, KJ Adams. Maybe throw in Danny Wolf from Yale. It's a pretty good lineup. And you also have Bill Self as a coach, which is never going to hurt. Moving on to Duke. Tyrese Proctor is back, is what it seems. Same with Caleb Foster. This is why I'm not comfortable putting them number 1, because Tyrese Proctor I heard Gary Parrish say over on CBS, he was the most disappointing college basketball player this year. He had to struggle with injuries, but yeah, he wasn't as good as we expected. Caleb Foster, he's okay. He's a good player. Cooper Flagg is coming in, which is the only reason people are ranking this team number 1. I'll have to see him. I'll have to see him play first before I immediately move Duke to number 1 in my power rankings. Then Kaman Malak, he's a 5-star recruit, also coming in. John Shire's he's continued that Coach K tradition of getting some good recruits in there. Moving on, number 4, Alabama. You know what? I'm just now realizing. Didn't mention Rylan Griffin. Rylan Griffin just entered the transfer portal. I haven't marked it down yet. Just entered the transfer portal. Rylan Griffin, I think he's going to wind up. Have you seen all that stuff on Twitter? It's weird. He was talking about how he loves Nate Oates. He's a big fan of Nate Oates, would never go anywhere. Then he enters the transfer portal. Now all of a sudden he's talking good about Nate Oates again. It's like, is he coming back? It was weird. I ultimately think he'll end up back at Alabama. If he does, this lineup's going to be loaded. Mark Sears, Rylan Griffin, Grant Nelson, Nick Pringle, Jaron Stevenson. Darren Reed, number 8 overall. Darian Reed, number 8 overall prospect. Wow, that lineup is loaded, just like the Final Four team that we had this year. Obviously, they have all that experience. Mark Sears makes all the difference. Now, things are changing. Before we get in anymore, things are changing. Mark Sears might enter the draft. Mark Sears might transfer. This is just my projected lineup as of right now. Number 5, UConn. I know. Number 5, they're losing key pieces. We're still waiting to hear on Alex Caravan. I think he's going to be back, quite frankly. He might test his waters and then come back. We're still waiting to hear. If he's back, it'll be him, Samson Johnson, who backed up Donovan Clingan, but he had a great March Madness. Jalen Stewart, Jaden Ross, Solomon Ball. Solomon Ball was like a big player for UConn early in the year, and then we just kind of forgot about him. He just kind of faded. He got in the national championship game for like a minute when they were blowing him out. That's about it. And then they're bringing in Ahmed Noel, who is the number 31 overall prospect. They're obviously going to do some portal hunting as well, so I'm sure they're going to bring in someone good. UConn, you know what their most important part is? It's Dan Hurley. He's incredible. He brings a vibe there. Solomon Ball might be a breakout player next year, so pay attention to that. I could also see Solomon Ball transferring, though, so keep that in mind. Number 6, we have North Carolina. North Carolina in our 6th spot. They returned that freshman Elliot Cadeau from last year. Good pass first. He's going to have to work on his shooting a little bit. If he can get good, if he can knock down threes just at a 30% rate, ooh, man, that would be special. Coexisting with RJ Davis. I think RJ Davis is going to be back. I hope, for the sake of college basketball fans, because he is special. If he comes back, he'll probably be the preseason player of the year, is what I would expect. They also have a great recruiting class coming in. Ian Jackson, the number 16 overall recruit. Drake Powell, number 13 overall recruit, along with Jalen Washington also coming in. Now, they did lose Cormac Ryan, Armando Bacot, Harrison Ingram. With RJ Davis, Elliot Cadeau, some great people replacing them, and Jalen Washington. It's a pretty solid lineup. Number 7, Iowa State. Iowa State returning a pretty developed team from last year. Taman Lipsey, I'm expecting to be back. Same with Keyshawn Gilbert. Milan Momcilovic. I can't remember how to say his name. It's something like that. Momcilovic. I'm Serbian and I still can't even pronounce it. They're also getting Nate Heiss, a Northern Iowa transfer. Deshaun Jackson, a Charlotte transfer. So that's going to be a pretty well put together team again, led by Taman Lipsey, Keyshawn Gilbert. Milan Momcilovic. I still haven't figured it out. I don't think half of the announcers have been able to figure it out. Number 8, I can consider putting them higher. I can see you putting them in the top 5. I've seen people have them number 1, even number 2 on their list. Gonzaga. Gonzaga returns just about everyone. Ryan Nemhard, Nolan Hickman, Ben Gregg, Graham Ike, Michael Ajayi. Now, they are losing Anton Watson, which is going to hurt. They played well at late in the year. They started to mesh. People forget how poor this team was early. Like they were legitimately on the outside looking in. They ended up coming back, so it's just a question of did this team just have a hot stretch, or were they a good basketball team the whole time? Just needed to match. We'll see. That's why I'm not comfortable moving them that high up. But I'm hearing anyone out. They have a great roster. Don't get me wrong. At number 9, I still have Tennessee. Tennessee coming off that Elite 8 run with their star, obviously Dalton Connect. The difference between, you're going to notice that Purdue is going to be, they're going to be down a little bit, where we'll talk about them here in a little bit. Why I have Tennessee above Purdue, Tennessee wasn't just Dalton Connect. Purdue was pretty much just Zach Edey. Tennessee has Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler's great. He's very underappreciated. Jordan Gainey should be back. Jemai Mashak should be back. Jonas Adu should be back. Toby Awaka should be back. They lost Dalton Connect and Vescovy, but kept just about everyone else. Did Jonas Adu enter the transfer portal now that I think about it? He might be in the portal. Someone fact check me on that. I think he is. So that would obviously be a big loss if Jonas Adu's there. But still, that first 4, Zakai Ziegler, Jordan Gainey, Jemai Mashak, Toby Awaka. Now, these rankings were made a couple days ago. So fact check me if I'm wrong. I think Jonas Adu might have entered the transfer portal. Something to keep in mind. I'd still have Tennessee up here in the top 15 for sure. With Zakai Ziegler, Jordan Gainey is going to step into a big role. Watch out for Jordan Gainey this year. Marquette. Cam Jones, Sam Jones, Stevie Mitchell, David Joplin, Ben Gold. What do all these guys have in common? They were all a part of that team last year that made a good run, but got beat by NC State. Cam Jones will be probably the Big East preseason player of the year. If he decides to come back, I'm pretty sure he will. I don't see why he wouldn't. They did lose Oso Ighodaro and Tyler Kolek. Wish Tyler Kolek would have taken that 5th year. That'd have been fun. but he's going to go. They still have a pretty solid roster, a lot of experience there. Baylor coming in at number 11. Jaden Nunn coming back, along with Langston Love. Remember when he got hurt? That was unfortunate. Langston Love coming back. VJ Edgecombe, their big prospect, number 4 overall, coming in, along with Robert Wright, the number 25 overall prospect, and then Josh Ojinawuna also coming back for Baylor. So that'll be a fun team to watch. And they got Scott Drew, one of the best coaches in America. Number 12. Go ahead, yell at me. I talk about him all the time. Had him for some reason going to the Final Four last year. Arizona, I'm keeping it number 12. They bring back a good team. They do. Jaden Bradley, KJ Lewis, Krivas, Carter Bryant's number 20 overall prospect. Maybe Caleb Love. I hope not. I'm so tired of watching Caleb Love play basketball. I hope he's gone. This Jaden Bradley and KJ Lewis, I think, are going to be good. Krivas is 7-2. They're in the Big 12 this year, which is going to help them. Can Tommy Lloyd win a big game? He refuses to win a big game. You got beat by Clemson. Clemson was no match to your talent, but Clemson was better coached than you were. Arizona at number 12. I know I should probably move them down, but I'm going to stick with them again until they fail me for like the 4th year in a row. At 13, UCLA. Yes, UCLA. Dylan Andrews, Sebastian Mack, and Lazar Stefanovic are back. Sebastian Mack was their best player last year. Now, we already mentioned they got Kobe Johnson transferring from USC. He's a stud. He is a great basketball player. Sky Clark transferring from Louisville. This is a pretty good roster. UCLA, they got all the money in the world. Well, according to Mick Cronin, maybe not. They're still a blue blood program. People want to play at UCLA. They got better last year. Remember, they were horrible at the beginning of the year. They got better. They really did. I think some of the players are kind of bought in. People are transferring there. They know they're a blue blood, but kind of just on that lower level right now. I think they're going to be better. I have them all the way up to 13. I think they're going to be good. I really do. Come back to this when they're like 7 and 8 again, and hate on me. I'm here for it. Just a prediction. We'll see. At 14, we have Florida returning Walter Clayton Jr., Will Richard, Denzel Aberdeen, Thomas Haw, Alex Condon. This will be a pretty good lineup. I like this lineup a lot. I wish Florida didn't have to play Colorado this year. 2 teams I wanted to take deep. Colorado and Florida. Ended up going with Colorado. And then Colorado lost in the round of 32, so I would have loved to see one. I think those 2 teams were so talented. Walter Clayton Jr. is spectacular. So is Will Richard. They lost Riley Kugel. I don't think that's going to hurt them that much. I think this is a good team. I'm excited to watch Florida again this year. Number 15, when will I learn about Arizona and UCLA? Tell me when I'm going to learn about Miami. I guess you can say Miami, 2 of the last 3 years were spectacular. Final Four and an Elite 8. I'm taking them, number 15. They got rid of Bensley Joseph. I think he was that guy who just didn't fit. Nigel Pack is back. Wooga Poplar's back. Matthew Cleveland's back. Now, I know that's what we said last year. Norchad O'Meara is gone. But look at what they're bringing in. Lynn Kidd from Virginia Tech averaged over 13 a game last year. Good player. Jaleel Bethia, number 6 overall recruit. That's a good starting 5. I think Miami's going to be good. I think Larinaga, they just gave up. You see those videos of Larinaga just with his head down. It was just a rough year. Just things happen. I think they're going to be back. I think they're going to be fine this year. We'll see. Yep. 12 through 15 in my rankings. I have way too early. Arizona, UCLA, Miami. I'll probably prove me wrong. We'll see. At 16, we have Auburn. Auburn, I thought was overrated this year. I had them losing second round to San Diego State. Obviously didn't end up needing it because San Diego State had to play Yale instead, which is pretty nice. We mentioned that they're going to lose Jonai Broom. They're going to lose KD Johnson, and they're also going to who am I missing? They're missing one more. Aiden Holloway. Aiden Holloway also transferring from Auburn. So it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild year, but they still have some talent. Denver Jones, Chad Baker-Mazara. Chad Baker-Mazara is going to step into a huge role this year. Chaney Johnson, Todd Pettiford. We'll see. I think Bruce Pearl's a good coach. I don't think Bruce Pearl is the best coach in the SEC, but we're going to see. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. At 17, I have Cincinnati. I've talked a lot about Cincinnati in the last year, so I said just watch out for this program. They seem to be doing things the right way. I think this is the year they're going to be good. Day Thomas, Jizzle James, some of the best names, by the way. Day, Jizzle, Dan Skillings Jr. Simus Lukosius, Josh Reed. The foundation for Cincinnati has been established. I think this is going to be a good year. I think they're in the top half of the Big 12 this year. I'm excited to watch them. Then Illinois. We talked about Illinois a lot already. I have them at 18. Kylan Boswell, Ty Rogers, Marcus Domask, Luke Goody. Who's their other transfer? Who am I missing? Ty Rogers, Marcus Domask, Luke Goody, Kylan Boswell. I'm missing one more. It's not coming to my mind. AJ Storr also going. So that'll be that's a pretty loaded guard lineup. It's pretty obvious what they're doing over at Illinois. They want good guards. They have them. They also have Amani Hansberry, Morris Johnson Jr. is the number 28 prospect. So that'll be that's a pretty deep lineup. 18 might. I mean, I made this before Kylan Boswell and AJ Storr committed, so maybe move them up a little bit. Michigan State. This will be a fun team to watch again. Jaden Akins really popped off in March Madness this year. Trey Holloman, Jeremy Fears Jr., Xavier Booker, barring he doesn't transfer, Carson Cooper coming back, and then maybe Trey Townsend. This seems like a perfect fit for Trey Townsend. Transfer to Michigan State. I'd love to see what Tom Izzo can do with him. Moving on. At number 20, had it labeled as BYU. Do not anymore. I made this before the Mark Pope thing, before everything went down. As their 5 in the starting lineup, I have Traven Nell, Richie Saunders, just transferred, by the way, just came up, Fassini Traore, Ali Khalifa, just transferred, Dallin Hall, transferring, not BYU anymore. I apologize for putting them on the list. This was made a couple days ago. It's not going to be BYU anymore. At 21, which will move up to 20 because of BYU, I do have Purdue. Most interesting team we're going to see next year. Was it really all Zach Edey or was it not? They're losing Zach Edey. They're losing Lance Jones. Just about everyone else is back other than Mason Gillis. Stay. Why Mason Gillis? Braden Smith back. Fletcher Lawyer back. Camden Heide, that huge putback dunk. Caleb First back. Trey Kaufman-Renn back. One thing I will say, watch out for Trey Kaufman-Renn. He is skilled. They didn't use him as much as I would have liked them to. Remember that was it the national championship game or the Final Four game? They went to Trey Kaufman-Renn right away, scored an easy bucket, and then that was it. That was it for Trey Kaufman-Renn. I would lean Trey Kaufman-Renn as at least a second team All Big Ten next year. I think he's going to be great. The combination of Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn, it's going to be a completely different team. I mean, you don't have a 7-4 guy down low. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch still. I think Fletcher Lawyer is one of the, I hate to talk bad about someone, but one of the most overrated players in college basketball. He's no good. I really don't think so. I root for him. He's fine, but I don't know. I'm not going to hate on him. Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn. I think that's going to be your dynamic duo next year. Next up is Texas. Texas has a pretty good starting lineup coming in. Tyrese Hunter, remember him? Back from last year. Great player. Shendell Weaver, also coming back. Caden Shendrick, also coming back. Remember he transferred from Virginia last year to come in. He's coming back. Xavier Amos, the Northern Illinois transfer, coming back. Trey Johnson, the number 5 overall recruit, coming to Texas. That's going to be pretty fun to watch. And then next up, we have St. Mary's. St. Mary's should be good, led by Aiden Mahaney. He's their best player, along with Augustus Marcellonis, Jordan Ross, Luke Barrett, Mitchell Saxon. They're returning just about everyone. 23 might even be a little high. I didn't know what to do with them, quite frankly. Didn't know. The loss of Josh Jefferson, we'll see how that impacts. I mean, they got beat by Grand Canyon in the first round. How good is this team really? We'll see. We're going to find out. I had to throw them on there. Rutgers. Why not? I'm rooting for them. I think it's fun to see a program like Rutgers have a top recruiting class. Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, they're 2 big prospects, number 2 and number 3 overall recruits. They also got Tyson Acuff from Eastern Michigan. He averaged 21.7 points per game last year. With those 3, oh my goodness. Bring back Clifford Omori. Stay. This lineup would be dominant. They'll also return Jeremiah Williams and Emmanuel Ugbali. This will be a fun team to watch. I'm excited to see if they really perform up to expectations. This feels like a John Calipari team of the past. We'll see what they can do, along with Tyson Acuff. Whew. I'm excited to see Rutgers. I thought I'd throw them on the top 25 because, once again, means absolutely nothing right now. But I'm rooting for them. We'll see. Final team we're going to talk about, Wisconsin. Wisconsin at number 25. They will return Chucky Hepburn, John Blacklow, Max Klesmit, Stephen Crowell, Carter Gilmore. Remember we mentioned they're losing AJ Storr. I think they're going to be better without AJ Storr, quite frankly. I think he was kind of just that go-to guy, but he's not a bad offensive player. He shoots some really questionable shots. He's a terrific defender. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're just going to kind of mesh a little bit better without AJ Storr. Look for Chucky Hepburn, Steven Crow to have big years, Max Klessman even. Losing a Sejan and AJ Storr, we'll see. We'll see what it does. Have them at 25. Numerous other teams that are considered. St. John's, Rick Pitino, second year should be a lot easier than the first year. Xavier is picking up players left and right. Zach Fremantle just announced he's going to come back. That's huge. I'd probably, if I were to make the list today, I would move Xavier up into the top 25. Probably same with Ohio State, Michi Johnson, and Aaron Bradshaw, who just committed. That's pretty good. Michigan, also on there. We'll see. Their roster's a little... I couldn't throw them on there right now because they're not officially committed, but it's just kind of a projection. We'll see. The Big Ten. Let me just say, the Big Ten, going to be spectacular. Maryland, also on here, where they have a great recruiting class. Losing Jameer Young, that's going to be tough. I'm curious to see. A lot of people having them ranked pretty high. I have them on here, but I have to see them first. Texas Tech, another one of them. I think Grant McCaslin, just spectacular coach. That's pretty much the whole reason they're on here. Virginia, same goes for Tony Bennett. He'll bring back Reese Beekman and Isaac McNeely, I think. I'm pretty sure. So that'll be interesting to watch. And then Kentucky, they were never going to make the list, but I had to throw them on here just because, I mean, it's Kentucky. They're going to put together a decent team with all the money in the world. I mean, they could put together a team of 5 and just offer them millions of dollars and then have some walk-ons come on and they'll be fine. Same goes for Arkansas. I'm expecting John Calipari to put together a pretty good team. Texas A&M, San Diego State, Clemson, USC, New Mexico, Boise State, and Dayton. Dayton just got Zed Key, so they might even move up a little bit more. All right, that's the rankings. Now, real quick, to end the show, let's just talk about some of the betting odds. The betting odds are already out. Things are changing like crazy. This was as of 2 days ago, I think. Duke, they're the favorite right now, plus 1,100, because they have a guy by the name of Cooper Flagg. That's basically the only reason. I never recommend betting preseason right now unless you find great odds, which we're going to talk about one that I think is pretty good odds. Kansas at plus 1,200, their second favorite. UConn plus 1,300. Alabama plus 1,500, Houston plus 1,500, North Carolina plus 1,500, Arizona plus 2,000. Don't fall into that trap like I did last year. Gonzaga plus 2,500, Kentucky still on here at plus 3,000. That just shows they're going to put together a good roster. Baylor plus 3,000, Purdue plus 3,000, Rutgers plus 3,500. People buying into that hype. Tennessee and Texas both plus 3,500. The only bets I would consider placing right now, 3 of these teams. Houston at plus 1,500 because I think they should be the favorites, but they're not. Gonzaga at plus 2,500. They were actually plus 3,000 and moved to plus 2,500. One more team I forgot to mention was Iowa State. They just jumped in. I know they're not on this graphic that I'm showing for those on YouTube, but they moved up. They moved up to plus 3,000 right now. These odds are via FanDuel, by the way. I would consider Gonzaga at plus 2,500. I was even considered Iowa State at plus 3,000. And finally, also Baylor at plus 3,000. Those are the only ones I would even consider. I mean, if you take Duke at plus 1,100, I mean, that's not good enough odds for something that is not going to happen for a very long time. So we'll see. Those are the opening lines. Bear in mind, Iowa State also on there. They just moved in. They were like plus 4,000, so hopefully someone snuck them at 4,000. But up to plus 3,000 now. Those are the odds. That's the entire transfer portal that we think is worth mentioning. That's the entire coaching carousel that's going on. A lot of crazy stuff. Things are going to change so much. I'm going to try and do a rankings like once every 2 weeks. I'm not going to do it once every week because it just doesn't matter. Because things are changing so quickly. But love just talking to people commenting. I've heard some outrageous remarks. I've heard some good remarks. I've heard people say they're like, Kentucky should be top 10 in my way too early top. I'm like, dude, they don't even have a roster. They don't have a team right now. They could put together a team with, I don't know. But still, outside of some of those, I love talking to everyone. So feel free to comment. What's your top 25? I mean, once again, don't think this like means anything. It means absolutely nothing. Just trying to preview a little bit of the rosters that you might be looking at. Now, for all I know, someone might transfer that's absolutely massive. I mean, DeJuan Harris might transfer. KJ Adams already said he's coming back, or something like Caleb Foster might transfer. You never know. Things are changing all the time. It was huge news, the Rylan Griffin one. So just keep that in mind. Means nothing, but it's fun to talk about stuff like this. want to keep the college basketball talk going as long as possible, so it's not as depressing that the season's over. But that's going to conclude the show. Thanks to everyone who stuck with me. No, it was a longer episode. Before you leave, if you wouldn't mind going down, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. We'll talk all the time. I want to get into some live shows. Comment below if that'd be something that you're interested in, and joining the live show, so that way I can talk to the chat. That's the big thing that we try and pride ourselves on, is talking to the people. So I'd love to do that with a live chat. Comment below if you would be interested in that. For those who aren't interested in the podcast thing, go check us out. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Go check that out. It's the same on all 3 of them. We're trying to post every day, at least on Instagram and Twitter. Might not be as much TikToking going on because, it's the off season, but it's only so much we can keep up with. There's people committing every couple minutes, so committing to other schools. So it's tough. It's tough to keep up with, but we're going to keep posting. Come on over to there. Follow us. Smash the subscribe button. Really appreciate it. Listen on audio, video, whatever it is. Really appreciate you all. Everyone have a great rest of their week. See you later.